This is Gene Montrose telling. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast recorded live today from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 459, originally aired May 25th, 2020. Hi everyone, I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you get a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today is a very special conversation about consciousness and connection. But before we jump into that, just a quick reminder. We have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com and click on that big blue button. If you happen to be listening to this right now on the website, just go up in the upper right-hand corner, click the blue button, and we will make sure every single day over the course of the next 10 days, we will send you another part of the guide. And the reason why the guide is broken up into these 10 bite-sized pieces is when we're presented with new tools, it's really easy to look at a bunch of information, see it as useful, but because we're given so much at once, it's really hard to implement. And so by giving you a small bite-sized piece every single day, you're going to get to try each of the pieces out. And the parts that resonate and work, you're going to keep doing it with them. I just was looking through my inbox before I hit record, and I actually heard from 3 different people who had mentioned different parts of the guide that had become part of their morning routine. And so it's a really easy way for you to taste a whole bunch of really fun, easy tools to make taking action easier and kind of stepping into your day in a more powerful way. Absolutely free. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button, and you can sign up for that right away. Today's podcast is a little bit different. This is actually audio from a live stream that I did a couple of weeks ago. I was approached by my friends, Jennifer, Carey, and Dayna. They have been doing a video series 3 times a week called Conscious and Connected During COVID. And basically what they've been doing is they have been pooling the people in their professional community and their friends and the people they really adore, and just having really short conversations with them where they ask them 4 questions about who they are and how they're staying connected. And every single guest gets the opportunity to share a tool with the audience that the audience can use. And so, like I said, I was lucky enough to be a part of one of those conversations, and Jennifer and Dayna were gracious enough to allow me to share the audio with you here. And so it'll give you a little opportunity to hear where I come from. I don't talk about that a huge amount in some of the work that I do, but it'll also give you the opportunity to hear how I am trying to manage day to day in the middle of all this chaos. And the reason why I say trying to manage is, this is a podcast about limiting sabotage and taking action more clearly and effectively. And a lot of my coaching clients, we spend a huge amount of time doing work on productivity and time management. And it's really easy for me to speak of those things with clarity because I've thought about them a lot. But just because I can speak with something with clarity and I can say something in a way that seems very simple does not mean that it is easy. There's a huge difference between things that are simple to understand and easy to execute. And time and resource management is not something that is necessarily easy to execute. And in the world that we're dealing with right now, that is particularly true. And so you're going to hear me talk about the struggle I'm having and the tools that I am using to combat that. If you would like to listen to the rest of the series, because they're doing 3 of them a week, and I think I was in week 4 or week 5, the conversations are really, really wonderful. If you go into the show notes, or if you go to tappingqa.com/459, which is this episode number, tappingqa.com/459, you will see a link to the entire interview series, so you can go back and listen to some of them. One final note before we jump in. This is something that we recorded on a platform called StreamYard, which is a streaming platform. And because of that, the quality of the sound is dependent upon the internet connection of the people participating. At the beginning, you'll hear a little shakiness in the internet connection from, I believe it's Jennifer's side. But once we get into the interview, that cleans itself up and becomes a really easy thing to consume, and it's a really great conversation. I was super lucky to have it. So here is my conversation with Jennifer and Dayna.
Hi, everyone. We are live, and we have a special guest with us today that Jen is going to introduce in just a moment. I want to share that this is Conscious and Connected during COVID-19. We're now into a few months. This is really an opportunity and a collaboration between Jennifer and myself to how to continuously bring different gifts to our communities, as well as how do we really spotlight the gifts that are available in our communities? So we also want to hear from you. If you're interested in being a part of this, please let us know. hello@integrativecounsel.org. So I'm going to pass it over to Jen, and she's going to introduce her guest.
Yeah, so Jean, this morning on my walk, I was thinking, how can I introduce Jean? And I started just getting a flood of images. The first one is standing next to him in a cave out of Spain dancing flamenco.
I remember that one this morning too.
Then I got this image of this pin. He gave us all pins on that trip where he was doing the comedy work with your partner and faith partner. And I just saw that pin, which I think I still have somewhere, which is wonderful. I thought of our Granada reunion in New York. And then I thought of seeing years ago, St. Petersburg, Florida. You've just stayed in touch. It's such a gift to connect with you. There's so much more I could say, but I don't want to take away from your first question. But I do admire you for so many reasons, Jean, and I'm so grateful to have you on our show today. So, as you know, we always start with the easy question of just describing who you are in under 4 minutes.
Okay. I can't say my name in 4 minutes. So my name is Gene Montrose. My primary work at this point is I help small business owners to eliminate self-sabotage. The tool set that I use for the mindset work is an acupressure modality, most often referred to as tapping. And so basically, professionally, what I do most of the day is I just crawl around people's subconscious minds to try and figure out what are the disproportionate and misinformed responses that they're having, and just trying to dissect those and transform them so that we can do the action that we want to take. I'm also a podcaster. I've been podcasting for 13 years. And so I spend a great deal of time not only podcasting, but also teaching others how to podcast. It's just such a wonderful platform that is really easy to use and share with others. And then, as you mentioned, for the last 25 years, myself and a buddy of mine have combined juggling, sketch comedy, drama, storytelling, and we travel all over the US and Canada working with high school and middle school kids. And I'm currently coming to you from my little bunker here in Brooklyn, New York. We were right at the front end of all of this. And actually the weekend of March 5th, I was at an event in which 2 days later, we found out that one of the presenters had tested positive. So, I've been at the front end of all of this. Fortunately, my community, my little corner of Brooklyn, is taking things very, very seriously. But it is, we're 9 weeks into it here.
Wow. Survivor in your bunker. I have so many questions about that alone, but I do appreciate that introduction. And I think it only briefly touches upon all the gifts that you share with so many different populations. I mean, we heard just in that we have business people, we have middle schoolers, high schoolers, all the people that you touch with your podcasts. And I know there's a chapter of your life where you were coaching as well, right? And using your tapping to help heal people one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. And I still do a fair bit of that as well.
I believe it. I believe it. So it is such an honor. And I'm so glad to have you on here sharing these gifts that you have so many of. Oh, and one more thing. One more thing about Jean that you didn't say, but I believe is true, is you have this ability of adapting and this ability of, like, if there is an obstacle, you come up with a way, like a unique way to overcome it. So even beyond the tapping, you have all these little tricks and hacks. And I remember that right away meeting you.
Yeah. And a sneak question that I just want to get in there because I think is an important one. Jean, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Well, what is going to bring me joy very, very soon is so I moved to New York 7 years ago because of New York. I mean, like people, why are you here? I'm like, New York. Over the course of 20 years, the city just kind of slowly tugged at my sleeve. I probably visited it 30 times in 20 years since I moved to the East Coast from Wyoming for college. And I was thinking about this the other day and I can feel it already. The first time that I sit in a theater space with a live performance, I'm just going to bawl my way through the entire thing. And the beautiful thing here is, I can go from everything from world-class productions in which millions of dollars and years have been invested in, and little things in black box theaters that cost $8 to get into, which 6 friends are just trying to do something because it's fun and interesting, and everything in between. And so just getting a chance to experience people doing things very creatively is just something that I love. Because the thing that I love, I spend all day talking about emotions. Like that's the work that I do. And language is so incomplete when it comes to being able to describe that particular experience. Like it very easily can turn into the stupid conversation of 3 o'clock in the morning as freshmen. Like, what do you see as blue that I see as blue? Is it blue? And like just those things that we get caught up. But truly, it's hard describing what an emotional experience is. And one of the things that I love about art is it gives you the ability to transcend words, being able to communicate something really, really specific. One of the tattoos I have right here on my arm is a piece of work by Oswaldo Guayasamín. He was the Picasso of the Americas. He was from Ecuador. He used his fame to keep pre-Columbian artifacts in South America instead of the museums all over the world, and the workers' rights movement. And after his death, I was studying Spanish in Quito and got a chance to visit his house, which was a museum. And there are these 10 paintings, they're emotions, and they're basically just faces and hands. And each one is a different emotion. And it was the first time in my life that I stood in front of a piece of artwork and tears just started streaming down my face without reading the little blurb, without knowing the context, without knowing anything. Just the images themselves were enough to move me specifically. And all of the writing I do is nonfiction. Like I'm a teacher. Fiction feels like a magic trick to me. Anything artistic like that just feels like a magic trick. I don't understand how it's done. It just poof. And I know that that's not the process. As a person who knows how to do lots of magic tricks and knows the mechanics of it from this side, but the way it's perceived is different. And so just the creative endeavors and being in a city that cherishes that.
Yeah.
Not just supports it, but it is a very clear piece of the New York identity is the artistic community. And so that just lights me up in so many ways.
You're speaking my language, Jean. Thank you for sharing that. New York is a magical place.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I think I left right before you came.
Yep, we were ships passing in the night in the city.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into the second question because we want to leave enough time for you to share your gift today. The second question is, what is keeping you conscious and connected during this time? What's keeping you centered? Especially,
the good thing that I have is that, I already had a whole bunch of infrastructure set up in my life because I'm super dyslexic and I have ADHD. And so it's really funny. I teach people productivity and structure and all of this stuff. And I can speak with clarity about it. And people just think it's innate. And it's anything but. Like I've had to work so hard to create the structures in my life because I've been self-employed since 97. And so I've had to learn how to manage my time, my energy, and that sort of stuff. So I already was really, really clear about the things that I needed to do as a baseline. And then about 3 weeks into it, I just recognized that I was just really struggling. The way I think about it is we all pay a 20% emotional tax every single day. Just because of what's going on in the world, we just start with a diminished resource state. Like I work shorter amounts of time. My day starts about 90 minutes later. I am less sharp than I normally am. And so I recognized that. And I was having this Friday, I think it was the third weekend, where I just like couldn't get anything done. And so I treated myself like a kindergartner. I made a little chart of all of the tasks I had to do every single day that were self-care things. And some of them were mental things. Some of them were spiritual things. Some of them were eating fruit. One of them was flossing my teeth in quarantine. I've flossed my teeth more times than the last 2 decades of my life. I can actually go to a dentist and not feel shame when they ask the question, are you flossing regularly? I can honestly tell the truth and they'll know I'm telling the truth. But it was also like touching base with my parents. It was eating fruit. And I went to the drugstore and got little bitty shiny gems and made this little chart. And every single time I did one of those tasks, I put a little shiny gem on there. And I just literally treated myself like a kindergartner. Yeah. I'm like, and in the days that I was really struggling, as I felt my foot sliding, I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to do one of the things on my little checklist here. And I'm just going to do 1 or 2 of those things. And it might reground me and refocus me for 30 minutes. And one of the things that I've always worked with Overwhelm with my clients. And I've recognized that overwhelm is not something that you have and then you don't. Overwhelm happens because we perceive the amount of work we need to do in any given moment is more than what we can achieve. And so when I have a really busy day, my subconscious is crap at timelines. It just thinks everything is now or not now. And it doesn't have a sense of outside of that. And so when I look at the to-do list, I'm overwhelmed. And that's just because I'm emotionally trying to do everything at once. If I can get out of that sense and recognize I'm not trying to do everything at once, the overwhelm goes away. I start the task. I feel great. And then the moment I look at the task list again, it's possible for the overwhelm to come back. And so I was already working from a disposition of recognizing that doing something like this, like grounding myself, isn't something I do once and isn't something that I do once a day. It's something that I need to do as persistently as my resource state requires me to do it. And so it's much more about 90-second things throughout the day that are reminding me or deliberately using the tools that I have to transform my resource state. So that, and for me, it's also recognizing the fact that it would be great to be energized and dancing on top of the world and being at the best, richest emotional state. And sometimes that's not possible. And so the question for me becomes when I bump into those moments, like, okay, great. What can I do in this moment to take one step up the rung of my resource state? What's the next better emotion that I can get myself to? Because if I'm in that next better emotion, I still might not be in a great space, but I'm in a better space than I just was, which means that I can have a clearer sense of what I need right now to get myself feeling better, or I can just be a hair more productive or a hair more present to talking to a family member or whatever is in front of me and managing in that way. So it's not a thing. It's giving myself permission to know that I have to do these things persistently. It's not like I take a deep breath at the beginning of the day and go, okay, great, I'm done with oxygen for the day. I don't need to do anything else. And it's just like, 4 seconds later, it's like, you need more oxygen, breathe again. I don't see that as a failure. When we get done with this conversation, I'm going to have lunch and I'm not going to feel bad that breakfast didn't do it for me. Recognize certain things, I have to keep doing them over and over again. And so the care for myself and making sure that I'm present and I'm grounding, I treat like meals. I treat like breaths. I treat like drinking water. It's something that I persistently do throughout the day so that I can have what I need to do throughout the day. And so by giving myself permission to do that, when my resource state diminishes, when I feel disconnected, when I feel fuzzy-headed, it's just a statement of fact. It's not a failure. It's not an opportunity to beat myself up. It's just like, okay, great. This is what this particular moment is. How do I respond to what's in front of me in this particular moment, what I want to achieve? And sometimes the thing I choose is a glass of Malbec wine, cookies and cream ice cream, and reruns of Mythbusters. And I recognize that particular moment, I am choosing a choice that isn't the healthiest, but my goal in all of this is to simply make all of my choices consciously.
Yeah.
Even if I know it is an unhealthy choice long term, and I know that I'm just using crappy processed sugar and alcohol and mind-numbing TV to just medicate myself in the moment, as long as I go, this is the conscious choice I'm making, and yes, I'm going to eat this ice cream with gusto, and I'm going to enjoy the fact for the next 90 minutes I'm not going to do squadoosh, and that's okay. But it's just about making sure I'm just consciously making the choices. And if I do that, I more persistently make better choices. It's not all of a sudden there's an empty carton of ice cream and I don't remember eating it. Yeah. It's like, this is bad for me and I'm going to love every minute of it. And I'm just going to be fully present to the bad choice. And if that happens, I actually get what I want out of the bad choice and I'm less likely to have it persist because I'm like, okay, great. Now I can move on to the next thing.
Gina, I think this is so beautiful and such a great reminder. And you and our guest yesterday touched on something similar of how to bring something that feels so sort of amorphous, right? This notion of self-care into really practical, tangible, step-by-step, attainable actions, right? And I love that you can do that through a chart where you put little gems, right? That is so beautiful. I'm doing that for my daughter right now. I'm like, yeah, I should be doing this for me.
Yeah. I mean, and that's it. I mean, like, and this has just always been my disposition. I'm just a practicalist. Like, I just like the most important question with anything that we're doing, tools that we're using for transformation, products that we're buying, ways that we spend our time is, how's it working for you? And if it is, great. Let's find a way to persist in doing that. And what's the infrastructure we can build around it so it's easier to make those choices? And if it's not working, great. How do I change this choice, or how do I make a different choice to make it work for me in the way that I want to work for it? And so I am known internationally for my expertise in tapping. And I am not a tapping zealot. Like I'm tool agnostic. Like it's the tool that works for me. And when I'm working with clients and I'm having conversations like this, I'm just like, hey, here's a tool that might work for you. Let's give it a try. And if it doesn't, let's tweak it for you. And if it doesn't, great, let's go do something else. But it's just about that. Like, I don't care how it happens. I just want to do it in a way that is not hurting those around me, is thoughtful and deliberate for me, and gets me to the outcome I want. Whatever, if someone told me it's really effective to stand on your left foot, cross your eyes, and hum "God Save the Queen," and it'll make you feel better, I'm going to give it a try. Now, it may work, oh my God, but it cost me 90 seconds to try it to get some outcome from it. And that's what I do. And just trying to think in practical terms. How do I make it easier? How do I make it better? How do I get done sooner? How do I find my joy? What are the things I can do to make that happen? I realized really early on that, and being self-employed for over 20 years, over 25 years, 25 years, is recognizing the fact that my success and failure is dependent on my choices. And there's luck involved, and there's circumstance, and there's lots of things out there that it's not just me making good choices and it magically happens. Like, there's coincidence and grace inside of all of that. But like, if I didn't sell, I didn't eat. And so I just had to be in this really deliberate, practical point of view and recognizing where the bottom line is. If my business is not thriving the way that I want, I know who's responsible. The entire C-suite is sitting in this little bitty room right now. It's not difficult to figure out where I need to be having the conversation and which one of my employees needs to have an evaluation of what's going on. But by recognizing that, it's liberating in some ways. Because I am able to go, these are the things I control, these are the things I don't. Therefore, the outcome is going to be what the outcome is. And it doesn't mean that I'm immediately satisfied with something that is less than what I want, but I'm able to recognize where my locus of control is. And like talking about a few moments ago, about taking a step up in my emotional scale, like, these are the things I can control. What are the things that I can do inside of my control to create a really small outcome that is useful? And I am not at the whims of fate. And again, other people's choices impact me, and things in the world that are out of my control impact me. But it's like, okay, actually, I tell a story to my clients about Jen all of the time.
You told me this before. Okay.
Yeah. So the very first night the first day that we had done classes in Spain, we'd finished dance class, and Jen was in a circumstance where she didn't have a lot of Spanish experience, and it was a slightly overwhelming experience. And dance class ends, and someone said, "Let's get drinks." And so we wandered this little corner bar, and I can remember you on my right and Nick Henson on my left. And we're at these tall tables, like high tops. They were actually big barrels. And where we were in Spain, with every glass of wine, they also brought you a little tapas plate. Like, it wasn't something you ordered, it just came with courses. And early on, it was bread. And Jennifer is taking all of the crumbs on the table and she's moving them into this neat little pile. And I go, "Let me guess, that's the only thing in the entire universe you control right now." And you looked up and said, "Yeah," and just went right back to it. And like, you weren't ashamed by it and you weren't offended by the question, but it's just like, okay, there are lots of things I can't control right now. So I'm going to start with the one thing I can control in this moment. And that's going to make me feel a little better because the universe isn't out of control. And it just happens to be the crumbs on this table. And that's the place we start. When we're overwhelmed by, because right now we're in something that is just, it's an existential crisis. Like, none of us were alive for the Spanish flu. Like, we haven't been through something that is this specific. And so in a lot of ways, what has happened is we haven't lost control. We've lost our illusion of control. Like, when things are going well, I think I'm in control and I'm making lots of good choices. And that's the reason why things are going well. The reality is the circumstances plus my choices are creating something good. In the midst of all of this, it's not that we've lost control, it's we've lost the illusion of control. And so the place that I start to make it practical is, great. What do I control? I can control breakfast. I can control the grind on my coffee and the beans that I use to have that first cup of coffee that I'm going to savor. I can control, so I have a big to-do list and I have a little to-do list. And it's like, okay, these are the 5 things that I'm going to try and do first. And I'm not going to worry about time. I'm not going to worry about anything else. But it's the thing that's in front of me right now that I'm going to give a try to. And each time I do something, I'm like, okay, that's something I can control. I actually have a little more control in the world than I thought before. And I do something else and I have a little more control. And it makes navigating all of this in a simpler way, because I'm not trying to manage my life or my day or the universe. I'm trying to manage what is in front of me at this particular moment. And each time I do that, I gain confidence in going, okay, it's not all chaos. There's a lot of chaos, but it's not all chaos. And I'm going to start from that place.
Got it. And that's how you find the peace in the chaos. Well, talk about the little gems on your chart. I don't know how many gems that we just got in that. I think I have to start listening to your podcast, Jean, because there was just so much. But I am glad that you touched upon your adaptability. That was very obvious, because that is the thing that stands out about you, and just your outside of the box kind of thinking to be able to solve things and to be able to use things that work. What is the gift that you're going to share with everyone today? I mean, you just shared a ton, but is there one specific?
So I'm going to share a little tool. And I'm going to share the most abbreviated version of the tool, because realistically, it's all that you need for a little energy maintenance in the moment. And the research is showing now that by doing what I'm going to show you, we can measure almost instantaneously in saliva and blood drops in cortisol levels by just doing this little technique. And so anytime that you are feeling overwhelmed by anything, if you're in fight, flight, freeze, fog, like oftentimes we think fight or flight, but it's actually fight, flight, freeze, or fog. Those are the brain fog. Those are the 4 consequences of fear. And basically all that is happening when we're afraid and we're overwhelmed is there's a part of our system that's just trying to keep us safe. And more than likely it's overfunctioning. It's just working too hard. We are responding as if we've encountered a saber-toothed tiger somewhere in the African savannah. When in reality, it's just like I'm overwhelmed by my inbox, or someone has said something nasty to me, or this thing isn't working out. But biochemically, it's the exact same response. And so all you have to do is you just think or say to yourself, right now I'm afraid, my fear is trying to keep me safe, and I'm overfunctioning. And as you do it, you're just going to, each time you say the phrase, the first time you're just going to take both of your fingers and just put them on your temples, take a nice deep breath. I'm afraid right now, my fear is overfunctioning. It's just trying to keep me safe. And then the second thing you do is you just take your finger, like you're doing shush, but you push down a little bit. Take a breath. And just say the same thing. I'm feeling afraid and overwhelmed right now. My fear is trying to keep me safe. It's overfunctioning. And the third time, just take your hands. So make an L with your thumb and index finger with your hand flat and just lay the thumb and index finger on your collarbone. And again, just take another nice deep breath. I'm feeling fear and overwhelm. It's overfunctioning. It's just trying to keep me safe and it can relax a little bit. And if you just do those 3 spots, you take 3 deep breaths, you think that or you say that out loud, and you're just going to feel your entire system just downshift a little bit. And if it's not the place that you want to do it again, just repeat it. And if you have some details, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now because I don't think I'm going to get this done. Or this is really too much because I don't think it's going to work out the way that I want. This is too much because I'm afraid they're going to say no. And just basically give your fear voice. Like imagine you said, I'm afraid. And a friend said, great. What are you afraid of? What could go wrong? And just describe that out loud as you do those 3 things. And you're just going to, fear is not bad. You know, when I'm standing in the middle of the street and a car is bearing down on me, my first thought shouldn't be, ooh, Mustangs. I love mid-60 Mustangs. Like that should not be my thought. My thought should be to move. Fear always wins. It's the reason why as a species we exist is fear always wins. It will override every other emotion that you're having. So the goal in these moments is to get them to be proportionate and well-informed. I can't be thoughtless because financially I'm being impacted by what is going on in the world. So I'm not taking this laissez-faire attitude as if nothing is wrong. But if I'm in a circumstance where I'm waking up at 2:30 in the morning, I can't get back to sleep, that is probably a disproportionate, misinformed emotional response. And so that's the goal all day, is just to make sure that the emotion I'm feeling is that. And so in 30 seconds, you do that. And what's really interesting is all of a sudden you start getting clarity about the thing that you're describing. And so the second time you do it, you might be describing it in more detail. It's not fear. It's I'm disappointed or I'm overwhelmed or I'm hopeful, but I don't know if it's actually going to work out. And just speaking it out loud. And this is one of the beauties of being in New York. When you live in New York, you can talk out loud to yourself and no one gives you a second thought about it. And so I've just gotten really comfortable just mumbling to myself all of the time, knowing that it's not a big deal. You know, now if you're in a circumstance with people and you don't want to be doing this at your desk or whatever, go to the bathroom, shoot yourself in the bathroom, take 60 seconds, just do this thing. And you'll just feel yourself just drop back into your body in a really simple way.
Absolutely. I love the way you broke it down, Jean. Again, a gift that you have. And I think, like you said, something that you've had to have as you've adapted with some of the experiences that you've had and challenges you've had. I love the way it acknowledges the fear. It doesn't avoid it. It acknowledges it. You honor it. You befriend it. You've definitely throughout this segment, I've noticed, have such an approach that's not judgmental. You know, so many of us judge our emotions as good, bad, right, or wrong. But you definitely, including this tool, it's not about that.
And the thing, you know, so the way the little image that I use for myself is this is a giant factory. And I have lots of employees, and some of my employees are in charge of my site, and some of them are in charge of my digestion, and some of them are in charge of creativity, and some of them are the legal team, and they're just trying to keep me safe. And inside of a company, a legal team can overfunction in holding a company back by preventing them from doing stuff because all they see is danger.
Yeah.
And so when my fear shows up, that's all it is. It's just an overfunctioning legal team and an overfunctioning safety officer. Just saying, this is really dangerous. We can't move forward. This is really dangerous. And it's like, great. And if I was in a company and that was the circumstance, I would sit down with those people and go, awesome. Describe to me why you think this is so dangerous. And here's a bunch of information that you don't necessarily have. And so the emotions I have, the phrase that I've, used my entire career is our issues are our allies. Like they're trying to be helpful. They're just overfunctioning or they're working from misinformed information.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to be kind and gentle with myself when I go, great, this is just a really overzealous employee that just needs to be reined in a little bit. It just needs to be taught, you don't actually have to be responsible for everything. You just need to do this one little task. And now we're going to give you the tools to do that. And it comes from, for the last 20 years, working with clients and listening to them talk about the reason why they make the choices they make. Because the tools that I use with my clients is we get to hear what are the fears, what are the stories, what is the judgment that they're worried from the outside. And when you take those things and you go, if all of those things your subconscious mind was true, it makes perfect sense. That's the action that you would want to take. It really is the best possible action you could take. Now let's use some tools so that what the subconscious mind is thinking is actually true. It's not just an operative reality, but it's actually reality. And so it's really easy to be gentle with it when I just recognize it's a tool. And sometimes it's when I persist in making the exact same mistake, then it's really easy to beat myself up. I'm like, well, you've been through this. You've had this conversation before. Why do you keep backsliding in this particular area? And the podcast that went live this morning, the entire thing was about being easy and gentle with ourselves. And I had 3 clients in 2 days say, why are you making me say that? I hate saying that. Because it's something that we resist. Because what you're talking about, Jennifer, this idea that we have such a high standard for ourselves that we think us at our best competency is what we should achieve all of the time. That we think our best self should be our average self. And it's not. If it's average, it only means half the time I'm better than this, not all of the time better than this. And being gentle with myself feels like I am copping out. I'm not taking it seriously. I'm giving myself permission. And we're so much better at being generous with others in the context of their circumstance than we are being generous with ourselves. Because we know our internal dialogue, we know what we're capable of, we know when we show up as a half effort, we know when we show up at our best, and we berate ourselves for that. And so being gentle with ourselves is a really hard thing to do. And at this moment in my life, that is my work as human. Like literally, like that is my work in my daily life, is just finding ways to be gentler with myself as I navigate the day. Because if I'm gentler with myself, then I don't hold resentment for myself and others. I leave the past where it belongs in the past. I don't forget it. I learn from it. I take responsibility for the choices that I make, but it helps me to stay in this moment more genuinely because I'm providing I'm providing a more honest assessment of myself. I don't know if I ever actually have an honest assessment of myself. It's just to recognize what am I capable and what am I not capable of, and holding myself to that standard and holding myself to the standard of my intention, not my outcome. My goal is inspired action, not inspired outcome. Because like we said at the beginning, there's so much I don't control. And so that work of trying to, and I can articulate it clearly where I'm gentle with myself all the time. And that's just horse poppy. That doesn't happen. Like I'm not gentle with myself all the time. But I really think that's our work as humans right now. It's just figuring out how to do that more persistently.
Yeah, so true.
Thank you. Thank you for, again, as Jen said, all these gems. That is the word of today with you, all these gems. And I think it's a beautiful note to end on, is that when we're gentler with ourselves, when we make this our work, we can therefore be gentler with others. And wouldn't the world be just that much better if we could begin that process with ourselves today? And I felt myself downshift when we did that exercise. And the fact that that's a simple tool that anyone can do pretty much any time. I'm so grateful for you, for the work you do in this world, and for sharing with our communities today, Jane.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to share all of this, the wisdom, the humor, the metaphors, the tools with my audience and our audiences. And what's a great way people can contact you, Jean?
Easiest way to find me is tappingqanda.com, like tapping question and answer, tappingqanda.com. Right now there's about 975 resources on the website. We have 3 a week. And if you want to reach out to me directly, just click on the contact link. Everything that's submitted to the website lands in my inbox. It doesn't go to a VA or a staff somewhere. The site was built answering people's questions. And I think that's the best way to communicate and continue to share. So that's where I am.
Love it. Jean, thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a wonderful afternoon. And again, thank you.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thank you, Jean.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that. It was a delight to have that sort of interview. And it is always fun for me to be on the other side of the microphone to be interviewed instead of doing the interviewing. It is much less work and is more enjoyable because I can just sit back and relax and talk about my own experience, which, as you hear in that, I enjoy doing from time to time. If you would like to check out the entire series again, just go into the show notes or go to tappingqna.com/459, and you will find a link to all of the videos from the series. Dayna and Jennifer have it on a YouTube playlist, so you can see them all and you can kind of pick and choose who you'd like to listen to and engage with. Both of them are wonderful. I'm lucky that they are in my life, and I hope you get a chance to enjoy their work more. You can also find out a lot more about Jennifer and Dayna's practices and the work that they are doing with clients by going to tappingqna.com/459 or look in the show notes and you'll see a link to both of their things. If you know someone in your life who would enjoy this particular interview, please be my ambassador. Pass it along. Don't spam your inbox and send it to everybody in the world. But if you know one or two people who would enjoy a conversation like this and might find some solace as they are trying to stay conscious and connected in these times, please pass it along. The easiest and most common way people find a new piece of resource is from the recommendation of a friend, and it would mean the world to me if you would pass it along. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. You can also recommend topics and guests for me to interview in the future. I actually sent out a whole bunch of emails last week, tracking people down for a new set of interviews, and I have a lot of great ones coming, but I can always do more. So if you know someone I should be talking to, please let me know. Gene, Gene, at tappingqna.com, or click on that contact link inside of the website. As a reminder, for those of you who have downloaded the Tapping Q&A app, we actually went back and we've added about 22 new tapping scripts to the app. So for all the tap along audios, there's now a written version of all the scripts. So if you'd like to go back into the back archive and carry it with you everywhere you go, I'd encourage you to download that app. If you go into the Apple App Store or you go into the Android App Store, just search Tapping Q&A. It's absolutely free. There are over 450 audios. There's tapping scripts, all of it that you can just take with you, access anytime you want. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrose. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrose Tapping Q&A. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrose and Tapping Q&A.